And welcome to the Really Helpful Club and the latest in our In Conversation series. And this morning I'm going to be chatting to Henry Faber, and Henry is the co-founder of Oppidan Education. Oppidan Education is all about mentoring children for their adult lives, helping them to make good decisions and helping them to that we have today. Now, Henry's just trying to join. I love this In Conversation series. This is where we shine the spotlight on different businesses, different business owners, understand what it is that makes them tick. And good morning. I'm very pleased you managed to join. I can see a few sort of hit and misses there where you were trying to join and then finally you got on. Well done, Henry. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you for having me, Sarah. Very nice to see you. How's your day been?
Very nice to see you too. Well, it's a beautiful sunny morning. It's a lovely kind of, I say, winter spring morning, which is beautiful. So the sun's shining through the window, and kicked off with a networking meeting this morning. In fact, I have a university-aged son, so he's just gone back to university this morning. So kind of all that sort of emotions of
lots of spinning plates,
lots of spinning plates, and also that kind of mixed emotion of getting on with your life, but one of them very much getting on with their life and sort of starting to empty that nest, which is interesting, which is where you guys kick in. What I was just sort of explaining, I think you're my 60th or 61st interview. I can't remember. I love this series because this is all about learning about you, shining the spotlight on the person behind the business, because people don't just get up in the morning and go, I'm gonna start a business and this is what I'm going to do. There's a journey to getting there. There is a life event. There's something. There's a thing that the catalyst that kickstarts it, and then we know that kind of journey from that light bulb moment, or that need, or that that catalyst that happens in your life. It's been a heck of a long time usually before then it sort of turns into this thing called a startup and then called a business. So I always like in this series to kind of rewind a bit. We're going to hear about Oppidan, the amazing work you do, and I know you work with thousands of families and children and schools and things, and don't want to sort of preempt anything there, but I want to rewind back to sort of Henry Faber. Where did it all start? Why let's learn a bit about you before we sort of shift on to shift a gear to find out about the business. So let's hear about you.
Thanks so much. That's lovely. This is my first Insta Live, so I feel like it's really a debut. You've done 60, I've done 0. I'm calling from our office in Hammersmith, which looks a little bit like a bunker, but I'm just actually in the soundproof meeting room. We've got a big team lunch happening after this, so it's a busy Thursday here. I very rarely get asked about my background, actually, because I'm sort of half of a duo, really. So Walter and I tend to go straight into what started with the business. But my background is I had a dad who was an MP. He's now a head teacher, so very educationally minded, but was originally in politics. My mum was a TV presenter. I always wanted to be an actor. I had a very positive experience of school, loved school. I was a linguist, liked languages, traveled to Spain, traveled to China, started working with young people. And I felt that while I was working with young people, what I really enjoyed was this sense that I could be a role model and that I could be a kind of core part of the family while remaining impartial. I didn't love any of the kind of academic support I was being asked to provide post-uni as a tutor. And actually, I enjoyed the acting, the performance, and the kind of relationship building that felt very personal and very character driven. I wanted to be an actor. I sort of still am an actor. I have an acting career on the side of the business. Last year, I did a whole year in the Bob Marley musical in the West End in London, alongside running the business, which was a very complicated 15 months, but it worked. I'm a big believer that being busy is everything. So managed that. And I've done very few sort of bit parts through my 20s in lots of period drama. So lots of very bad haircuts and chainmail and awful heavy sort of musty costumes. But it's been a bit of variety from otherwise a decade now of working with kids and with parents.
So a bit of an actor, obviously that kind of educational background, which is interesting, and many of the politics as well, kind of that. But I guess what's so interesting, which will kind of, I suppose, feed us into Oppidan and the inspiration for it, is that thing you're referring to there is role models and character. So let's sort of drill into that a little bit, and you know, and how that led to the inspiration, the light bulb moment for, you know, from going from kind of helping out, as it were, doing a bit of acting, doing a little bit of, well, I could maybe do this for a living, to this thing called Oppidan. You know, how did you get there?
Well, so Oppidan is loosely termed as a character education company, and character education is something that parents don't often know a lot about, but schools are very involved with. It's a big part of how schools are assessed and run, as their approach to character. When I was 22, 23, I had no idea what character education was. In fact, I probably didn't for the first 3 or 4 years of Oppidan's business journey. I sat down in a cafe in West London with my old pal Walter, who I'd known since I was 10, and we just got the sense that there was like an energy and a commitment to doing something with young people, and we knew that it was going to be around good role modeling and around personality, but there was nothing really, there's no pedagogy to it, or there's no real kind of educational grounding or research. We just felt that having really buzzy, exciting relationships with kids and with their parents was what would make progress for them academically. So that was the kind of seed of the idea. It was all about supporting parents. It wasn't necessarily about supporting schools at that stage. We started from his kitchen. Like I said, I was 22, 23. There was a very bad business plan, which is somewhere hidden in a drawer getting dusty. Not sure I'd show it to anyone, if I'm totally honest, but we kind of plugged away. All
business, you know, it all starts from, well, you know, we'll do a bit of this, we'll do, you know, it's, you know, you're not revealing anything, you know, that I think anyone, if they're being honest, would not admit to.
No, you're right. And we started with a handful of clients, and I think the key idea was really, you know, schools perhaps not trusting of tuition businesses, not complementary to them, not working in partnership with them, and parents not on the whole thrilled to be engaging with tuition. You know, I'm spending money on school, or I'm, you know, thinking about my kids for so many other things. Why am I having to pay for extra stuff? And do I feel that sort of comfortable about it? Am I happy to shout about it that loudly? And similarly, children, I'm not sure any child has ever gone, please, mum, I love a tutor, I can't wait. And that sense of it not necessarily being something people were really excited about. So we wanted to triangulate those kind of 3 stakeholders and make sure that it was really clear to all of them that this could be fun, it could be energetic. Yes, it could have academic outcomes and kind of achieve the things we set out to do through education and schooling, but actually it would be about the personality and the kind of the values and the character set built at the middle of it. And it's I guess it's just kind of snowballed very slowly from there. Snowballing would imply quick growth. It's been a very organic, bootstrapped, methodical process over a number of years, but we love it. We have a great time doing it.
Okay, very good. And I suppose the other thing is, I mean, you know, where I'm standing from as a parent, as a business owner, lots of links and lots of contacts in schools, is that, you know, where I'm looking at is that schools are brilliant at the education side, and here, I mean, we are, you know, especially within the private sector, because there's just the numbers, there's just the ratios to be able to, you know, to be able to manage that. But, you know, it's obviously not exclusively in the independent sector, but it's as if there's like that gap missing between, you know, you have the subject driven curriculum, but are we equipping our children for the workplace, for the world, for society, for the gaps, you know, for the needs that we have today, not just today, but tomorrow? And I guess that is where Oppidan feeds in terms of that mentoring of, you know, what could your future look like?
I think you're spot on. I think there's a lot of noise that's coming from employers, whether you're PwC or the local corner shop or anything in between, that you want young people coming into the workplace who have essential skills. And people have actually, a lot of people call them soft skills, but we like to call them essential skills, which we steal from Skills Builder, which is kind of the forward thinking unit on this, because they are essential. They're not soft in any way. They are the skills that make people adaptable and resilient and you know, suitable employees in the workplace and exciting young people. I think there's a bit of a gap maybe where university comes in, where yes, apprenticeships are becoming more of a kind of commonplace route, but for the most part, we are drilling young people to get into academic universities where they're going to study something in detail in a very academic way for 3 years. And I think schools are working really well on skills, actually, and in the workplace skills are very important, but perhaps there's this balance there too. So I suppose our job here is to make sure that parents are aware of the relevance and the significance of those skills, and to focus on those for the right reasons rather than always focusing perhaps necessarily on marginal outcomes or small academic gains. Have the bigger picture in mind, know what you're trying to create long term. One teacher said to me the other day, we'd really love our parents to think about their children as what they'd like to be when they're 22, not when they're 11, looking at a pre-test for a grammar school, or 16, choosing their A levels. It's actually to have a bit more of a long-term outlook and to inject, I guess, positivity and a really good sense of fun into all of this.
No, I couldn't agree more. So okay, so there's the idea, there's the mission, there's the you know, that catalyst moment, from, you know, Henry, part of the family, to now with Walter, to having this idea, recognizing there's this gap, as it were. Tell us about, and you talk about it sort of grown organically. If I'm a parent watching this, and you know, maybe a school as well, and you need to sort of be really clear about what you're offering, is and they go, okay, well, look, this is really resonating, because I really want my child to have that kind of that bigger picture, that you know, those essential skills that you're talking about. What is it exactly you're offering? And if I'm a parent watching this, or I'm a school watching this, you know, what are you going to help? How are you going to help me? Is it going to be you're going to work directly with my child in school? Are you going to come to my home? You know, what's on offer here?
So in really simple terms, here in Hammersmith, we're 15 people and working across really two sides of a business. One works with families, one works with schools. So they're kind of isolated but connected in much of what they do. So parent calls up on the phone, and you may have a child with a test to go through, moving schools, changing location geographically, interesting sibling dynamic, picking GCSEs, particular subject strengths or weaknesses. There's a whole plethora on the Venn diagram of kind of parental or student need. But we have a team of about 150 mentors, and they are rock stars. They are far more exciting than me. They are Netflix writers and training medics, entrepreneurs, journalists, all walks of life, really interesting demographic of diverse individuals in their 20s and 30s generally. And they're like wildfire for young people. They get young people stoked and excited about school, and they break down barriers, I think, to engagement, which are just naturally there because some kids don't want to take advice from their parents. That's a really difficult role to play as a parent, to be the enforcer and the friend.
Most children do. You know, show me a child that goes, hey mum or dad, you know, let's listen, you know, so let's listen to what you know, it kind of falls back into the you know, let's sit down and have a sensible conversation over the dinner table. Oh, let's have a, you know, it's a very slow burn, which is why you've got to look for those cues, a bit like a baby having a bottle. Is, you know, that you've got to look for those cues when they're willing and prepared to receive. You've got to grab those moments, but they are you know, they're not going to be that forthcoming in, I think, for most children.
I mean, how many parents have been in the car on the road home from school and, you know, how's it going with the GCSE planning? Oh, shush, you know, yeah, I've got it covered, I know what I'm doing. And I always use the analogy of my dad, who was meticulous and kind and patient, trying to teach me to play golf as a child. And I loved playing golf with him, but I didn't really want to take his advice, even though I probably knew deep down his advice was good advice. And I think we're not about parents, you know, reneging on their parental responsibility. It's about them handing a really important piece of this over and saying impartiality is really useful and engagement is important. And having this feature, this person in the family, can be a real support to us. So it can be around academic need. It can be around more of a pastoral need. There's a spectrum of need and requirement there, but I think fundamentally we are pairing up mentors to help families get the best out of education. And there's a lot of mentoring there for the parent as much as there is for the student. You know, there's school advice, there's planification of like what education really looks like for you as a family.
Is not always easy to navigate. And, you know, there's so much emphasis on getting your child into that next stage, you know, whether it's getting them into the, you know, the pre-prep stage and the prep stage and then the senior school stage. But actually then when they're actually in that, you know, especially in that sort of senior school stage, is it's like the support can't stop. You haven't finished. You haven't ended your journey in terms of the parenting. Okay, so that's on the family side. And what about on the school side?
On the school side, so we started working with schools really because we wanted to prove that we could be in the school day, and that we could be complementary with an E to schools, and that we could be in partnership with schools, because that's where the education takes place most of the time. And we started granular, very slow steps, but we now support a real range of schools, from UK preps and senior independent schools to multi-academy trusts. We were in Oldham on Tuesday supporting 100 children in the northwest in Manchester. And I think a real spread of demographic and child and teacher type and profile of learner, but fundamentally running engaging mentoring programs in the school day. So that could be around character skills at prep level, primary level, and then at senior we do a lot of training students to be student leaders and mentors. So take your 16, 17-year-old who needs more student leadership experience for their CV, for their UCAS, but also it's about building a kind of in-school community and a cohesion between different year groups, that kind of vertical tutor group setup of how can we impact a school to make them positive, healthy, happy places.
Yeah, excellent. Very good. Okay, so so we've got lots of people watching this, which is fantastic. So I would imagine there'll be, you know, either people who've worked with Henry and his team at Oppidan, or want to know the answers to anything. This is your chance. I love it when we get comments in here, you know, especially if you're a client of Oppidan's and you've got something nice to say. We love nothing better than that. But also, if you've got a burning question, again, pop it into the chat box, and we'll try and weave it into the conversation. Okay, so Henry, that's kind of what you do, how you offer it, etc. What about you as a business owner? So you know you're a co-founder. So that is interesting in itself. You know what? Maybe share some of the insights of what you find most rewarding. But also, I think running a business with a co-founder is such a different journey to running a business on your own. So maybe talk about that kind of Walter light bulb moment too.
Yeah, my girlfriend describes it as the third person in our relationship. It's very much you'd fall on your sword for Walter before me, wouldn't you? That kind of thing. And
you just don't want to push that too much.
I think we'll leave it there. I think the co-founder thing, I don't know how people run businesses on their own. I'm full of admiration and respect for people who do. I've fallen into it with a friend. He wasn't my best friend at the time, but we've certainly got closer and closer. You learn about compromise, you learn about reading people, but fundamentally you have someone to support and share the whole thing with you, and that's worth its weight in gold. I think it's a potential huge banana skin to pick the wrong co-founder, and I feel very grateful that touchwood we've had close to a decade of really passionate friendship and great fun doing it. So that's been wonderful. What's been rewarding about it, I think the variety day to day. You are dealing with everything from sending invoices to calling clients. I'm sales, I'm operations, I'm strategy, I'm booking train tickets on certain days. You've got to be happy to be at the coalface, and that doesn't suit everyone, but I like being busy, so it suits me. I love working with people. I'm very interested psychologically in the dynamics of HR and teams and what makes good teams. And I think the most rewarding thing is the impact, like getting to go to a school or see a Google review come in from a parent, or chat to a parent who I've not supported personally, but who's had an experience with us. Sometimes it can be as silly as I'm on the tube and I see an Oppidan hoodie or a cap float past down the platform. And you get these moments where the rest of the time it feels like imposter syndrome. So actually noticing like a visceral impact of what you're doing is really great, because like everything, you're paddling under the surface and it often doesn't feel as positive as maybe others might see it. But it's all that variety and the dynamism of it. I'd be very bored otherwise, I think.
I love what you just said there, because we do a huge amount around imposter syndrome, kind of that lack of confidence. And, and so much of the work we do at Really Helpful Club is with female founders. And so it is just lovely. It is, for me, a really impactful moment. You have a man, on screen here talking about that kind of that visceral feeling of, that you're underneath paddling away, all those kind of insecurities of running your own business, but the joy that comes from someone saying you've made a difference is really tangible. So thank you for sharing that.
No, yeah, I totally agree. And remembering also that everything's relative and
Mm,
expectation management is so important. And to sometimes take a step and think, yeah, it's going quite well today. And yesterday was a bit of a nightmare, but that's okay.
yeah.
And I think trying to stay cool and calm is probably one of the things maybe the team needs most. So
Isn't it? Each day is a new day, yeah. And as long as as long as the trajectory is not all downward, then you might just be doing something right. But yeah. I mean, I see a lot of reviews about what you're doing, and I think I think it's really needed. I think this is a big gap in our education system that you are filling, and which is what's so interesting. So that's kind of the joys of running a business. So if someone's here is look, you've been doing this a decade. What if someone here is just starting up, or they've thinking about starting a business? What would be the Henry Faber top tip for to someone who's thinking about either a sort of a cautionary tale, or something that you would like to share with the
I
audience?
think it's a real, it's a product thing. Walter is obsessed with product, maybe more so than me. I tend to lump into things and think, yeah, it sounds like a really good idea.
Mm,
Let's do it. And if it's not a real need, if you're not certain that what you're doing is solving a problem, I think you're starting from a real disadvantage. And I think we've been fortunate that we've always had a kind of key philosophy or an ethos that's, I suppose, solving the same thing, but we've gone about it with lots of different trials and experiments of what we're solving or how we're trying to solve it. I'm thinking of a year and a half we spent trying to build a software platform for a kind of subscription service video after school model. It wasn't the right thing. It wasn't a problem people needed solving. It was a reaction to COVID. And, you take the best of your context and your market and whatever. But I just think proving with data that things are needed, testing your
yeah.
assumptions, being really, really deliberate and methodical. I started this at 23. Sometimes I think if I'd had more experience and kind of a bit more maturity, probably could have started it at 26 or 27 and still got to the same place as we are
Okay.
now. It's easy to say that, it's all relative, isn't it? But I think with the critical eye would say, make judgments on what problems you're solving and be really consistent about testing those. And otherwise, you waste a lot of energy chasing rabbit holes and warrens that you probably shouldn't be spending time in. And be really clinical with your time too, because actually it's really easy to waste a lot of time when you can be more focused. But yes, I think bringing it forward to where we are now, we've tested a lot of what we're now doing, and we feel really confident that what we're selling and what we're delivering is needed. So now it's a problem more around delivery and growth than it is around initial idea. Whereas I think most new businesses start with a problem of proof of concept. And if you're going to be funded or receive funding, you're going to need to prove that concept. We didn't have any funding, so we could make our own mistakes along the way, but I wouldn't have been given such a long leash if we'd had investors at the beginning, probably.
Very, very, very good answer. And I love this. Thank you, Josh, for sharing this. He says really important conversation. So thank you very much. So here you are. You, as you say, you're self-funding. You're working with thousands of families, working with hundreds of schools. You're doing something really important in mentoring these children, these students to that next stage. If we sit down in, I don't know, 12, 24 months, even 5 years, I mean, 5 years feels like an awful long time right now, doesn't it? But it's, what do you think we'll be talking about with Oppidan in that period? What will success look like for Oppidan, for Henry and Walter?
It's a really good question, and I'm not sure every day of the week I know the answer to it. But
Okay.
I feel clearer on it than I have done in the past, which I hope is a good sign. I guess maybe three things to mention. On the school side, we're at 100 and something schools. If we were at 500 schools, that any number, 200, 300, 400, whatever, but
Yeah.
really growing the school base is going to be the influential game changer of whether we're a big business or a small business. And that's really important in impact too. It's just more kids. I see it as volume, and that's difficult because it's granular, it's hard fought. You've got to really convince people of your credibility. So growing our credibility, growing our thought leadership, playing an important part in key partnerships. Like the partnership we had on Tuesday in Oldham is working in collaboration with Eton College, but with some really impressive multi-academy trusts in Manchester and in the suburbs of Manchester. And that's like a credible piece of work that we're really excited by and to grow. So more of that. On the parent side, it's very one by one. I don't think there's any sort of huge pot of parents waiting somewhere who will all sign up in one go. It's about creating and improving really exemplary experience for the parent, so that you, the parent, can go to all your friends and say, I have no qualms about this. This was the best decision I made. And that's a word of mouth thing. And it's not very, kind of high and mighty as a theory, but I just think proof of experience in every single detail, and just improving that user journey, that product experience, and bolting on more to the experience, so that the parent doesn't just get a pair up with a mentor, but actually they get really strong resources and reporting and an online experience and all sorts of other things that can help. And I think the last thing is much less visible, but is very important here, which is the team and the culture. When you have a team of 10 to 15 or anywhere in that kind of size, culture is very fragile. And right now I'm really happy with it, but it can turn on a knife edge. And hiring and retaining really good people is sort of the most important bit of any of this, because if I can't delegate and have really strong people who I'm proud to send out and represent us, I'm going to be spinning 50 more plates than I need to be, and I'm going to lose my head doing so, and we won't grow. So hiring the right people and working out what that culture feels and looks like for the long term, not just the next year or two, that's important too. But it's a fun challenge. It's a really fun challenge.
It's a fun challenge, and it's been such a fun time talking to you, Henry. Thank you very much indeed. And
thank you.
And let's regroup in a year, in 2 years, or actually sooner. I mean, and actually, if anyone ever has a chance to go to Henry's office, it's another one of his sort of great dens, isn't it? Which is just a fun place to be.
It's a lot of fun. Please, if you're ever in Hammersmith, pop by. We love having guests. It was lovely to see you here, Sarah. So thank you, and thank you for sharing the time. And to anyone who's tuned in and listened to this,
brilliant. Thank you very much. And what I always say to everyone, look, I love these lives. We're obviously, taking a little bit of time out of your day when you tune in to watch these, and we'll share this on all our different platforms. We'll get this on LinkedIn. We'll get this obviously on the IGTV channel and on Facebook. If you've enjoyed this, and you know somebody, or a school, or you think, God, this is really resonating with me, or you could resonate, could make a difference to them and their family, we always say, actually don't keep this to yourself. This is, you have an obligation to share it and share it onward, because this is too important. This is about the next generation. This is about their future, and especially important, I think the work that Oppidan are doing is really making a tangible difference. So, Henry, thank you very much indeed, and thank you to everybody for tuning in.
Thank you. That's beautifully put. Thanks very much.
Take care.
Bye.